Welcome to Discovering 615. Today your host, Rob Thacker, aka Thack Attack 615, dives into the haunted heart of the South. From eerie cemeteries to ghostly legends passed down through generations, he explores the shadowy corners of Southern folklore with the American Hauntstorian, Sircy. From Tennessee to Cincinnati and beyond, these aren't just stories. They're chilling echoes of the past that still linger today.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Discovering 615. I'm your host, Rob Thacker. Some of you know me as Thack Attack 615, a realtor with eXp Realty. And today I've got a really special October treat for you. I'm joined by Sircy, known as to many as the American Hauntstorian, and also the host of Southern Ghost Stories podcast. And we're going to dive into some spine-tingling tales and have a little fun with some ghostly history. So, Alan, thanks for coming today.
Hey, thanks for having me here at Thacker Manor. You lowered the drawbridge, I crossed the moat, and it was great. Really impressed.
That's right. You just had to deal with the vicious...
yeah, your attack dogs did jump on me.
The attack dog, yeah, exactly.
They're sweet, though. They probably just found my dog on me, is what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah, absolutely. So, Alan, I know from... And again, like I said, I told you earlier, we were talking about... my wife and I love murder mysteries, but then we found your podcast.
Yeah.
Just have been listening to that because we've been doing some traveling lately, past couple weekends, traveling to see kids and kiddos, and we've been loving that. So I know from your podcast, you said that you're native Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, I grew up in Antioch, but spent a lot of time in Brentwood, Carthage. I mean, I was all around. Hartsville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Murfreesboro. I mean, you grew up in the area, aunts and uncles, cousins, I had family all over, so I was everywhere, but I grew up in Antioch.
Great. So what got you involved what drew you into the world of the ghost stories, haunting, myths, legends, all that?
I think as a kid I always thought it was kind of neat and interesting, but I lived in a house in South Nashville for several years, and it's just kind of like, I knew it was there, and it didn't bother me too much, and it's kind of strange and weird, but that's not really what got me started. But yeah, backing up to that, so my grandparents, do you know where Traveler's Rest is in South Nashville?
Yeah.
Over off Harding Place?
Oh, yeah.
So my great-grandparents, they bought, the house belonged to Judge John Overton. He was Superior Court Justice for the state of Tennessee. He's Andrew Jackson's best friend. So in the 1300s, it was a Mississippian Indian village, and in the 1800s, John Overton bought the property. So Overton moved in, and when he bought this property, he started clearing the land, and he dug up 3 Indian stone box graves, and he built his house there. And he called his house Golgotha, the House of the Skull. So he gets married, and his wife's like, we need a new name. Let's call this place Traveler's Rest. So he renamed it Traveler's Rest. Yeah. In the 50s, my great-grandparents bought 2 acres from the Overton descendants and built a house there. Well, my great-grandfather died, I think it was 97, 98. My great-grandmother passed, she got put in a nursing home in 05. And because the house, insurance won't cover a house because it's empty. So my uncle asked me, hey, would you mind moving into this house? I was in an apartment at the time. Sure, no problem. I moved in, and the first night I was there was a trash can in the corner of the kitchen, and it moved 8 feet in the middle of the night. Jeez. So, I woke up next morning thinking, what in the world? So.
And how old were you at the time?
Oh, man, I was probably in my early 30s, I guess.
Okay, gotcha.
So I had a light in the den every night for bed. I'd turn it off. In the morning, it would be on. It got so bad, I just unplugged it and put it in the garage. It was a thing. Well, also, I had 3 TVs in the house, 2 in the back bedrooms and 1 in the den there. So every morning they'd be off. I come over for work in the afternoon, all 3 would be on. It's just weird stuff like that. Nothing malevolent, just kind of mischievous. So something happened one day, and I hopped the fence and I walked over to Travel's Rest of the Mansion's historic sites and museum. And I asked the director or the lady there, I said, hey, I live right over here, things are happening. Just weird stuff. Lights turn themselves on, and she's like, oh, well, there's no such thing as ghosts, you're wasting your time. Here we talk about the Native Americans, the Overton family, it's no such thing as a ghost. Okay, so I go to hop the fence, walk back over the house, I see a lady pulling up, she's wearing the period attire, she's a volunteer, and I'll ask her, live over here, things are happening, is this place haunted? Honey, there's so many ghost stories here, but I'm not allowed to tell you about them. So some historic sites won't talk about it, like if you go down to Franklin, with the Battle of Franklin, Carter House, Ground Zero, they'll tell you the same thing, no such thing as ghosts. Go across the street to the Lowe's house and invite you in, show you a surveillance video from the night before where bullets jumped off the counter. It's just, some places embrace it, some places don't. State-owned sites like Cragfont, Rock Castle, the Hermitage, they try to keep things under wraps. But it's just, I don't know, but yeah, for some reason Traveler's Rest would not talk about the ghost stories. That's kind of how. That's my background in living, in a haunted place. But how I kind of got started, my wife took me to Savannah, Georgia, and I didn't want to go. Like I wanted to go to the beach. I didn't want to go tour this really old town and hear ghost stories. So I went kicking and screaming. So we went and we did a ghost tour. I'd never done one before, and I just fell in love with it. Yeah. Like the history and the hauntings, how they kind of mesh. It's like, okay, it's haunted, but why is it haunted? They explain the backstory, the history, and I always loved history. And they kind of just combined all that. And so I guess a year later, my wife and I went back to Savannah again because we loved it so much. And we paid for like a VIP super duper ghost tour. And when we got there, we went like 4 places, and it was kind of a ripoff. So my wife was mad. She said, someone should make an app for $2, all the haunted places on it. I said, that's a great idea. She said, well, we should do it. I was like, I don't know how to code. She said, figure it out. So we got back home. And I bought a Mac, and I spent the whole summer watching YouTube videos and like just figuring it out, like she said. And I made an app for Savannah. It's called the Savannah Ghost Map app. And I went back to Savannah, made some trips down there, and did some research, made the app. And that summer I had the template. I'll make one for Nashville. Why not? It's where I live. So I made one for Nashville, and I included like Gallatin, Murfreesboro, Brentwood, the outliers. And then I traveled around, went to Louisville. Once Nashville's done, went to Louisville. Well, I hopped on a plane, went to Boston, Salem, New Orleans, St. Augustine. Made these traveling apps. So, March 2019, my wife and I are expecting a little boy. And on a Monday night, I'm in the floor putting together a toy box because the baby shower was the day before. So putting together this toy box for the baby's room. And my wife comes in from work, she's all upset. What's going on? Well, somebody high up in the company came in and closed their entire division. So little boy's coming in 2 weeks, what do you do? I just prayed about it, help me figure this out. Next day I'm driving to work, and this podcast I'm listening to, I can't remember what it was, but the guy said, you're never too old to go to college. And I thought, I'm in my 40s, I am too old to go to college. But I gave myself an education making these apps, I'll write a book. So I included Gallatin in my Nashville app, and I realized, hey, there's no book about Gallatin. I'll just write a book about the ghost stories and history of Gallatin. Yeah. And when it came out, and what's wild is, I was working on this all throughout the summer, and then I was at a place in Hendersonville, this little Quickie Mart, and I see this front page of the newspaper. It says, a book about Gallatin ghost stories coming soon. And I thought, oh man, here I am. I got this book coming out. I just had the baby. I've got to get this thing done. And I think, no, lady, she wrote a book, but she did it like 2 or 3 years later. It wasn't coming soon. It took her a little bit longer than she anticipated. But that like lit a fire under me. Like I was staying up till like 1, 2 in the morning, getting up at 5, going to work. Like I had to get this thing done. So I just worked on it, and I released it in October 2019, and like it did really well. It surprised me how well it did. And I kept going. I did Murfreesboro the following year. And what's wild is, because Gallatin did well, Murfreesboro is like 3 or 4 times bigger than Gallatin. I thought, I'm going to do this Murfreesboro book, I'm going to retire. Yeah. Well, then 2020 hit, and the virus stuff, everybody went crazy, lost their minds, and it's like, it's so aggravating. And then I did one for Franklin the following year. Franklin did really well. I did one for Auckland, it did well. So I kept going, and my little boy turned 5 last year. I quit my job. I walked away from a job I was at for 17 years, to homeschool my child, and the Lord works in mysterious ways. I never would have seen this past myself, but here I am.
Well, that's cool. So how do you, when you explain a bit about like your research that goes into these books? You mentioned you love history. I love history. I love American Revolution, especially American history. Those type of things, and of course, there are always legends, myths, and all that stuff with it.
Yeah.
And so, what do you do? How do you go about? What's your mindset, and kind of like, how do you go about doing?
I mean, it's a lot of history, a lot of research, and like with the Gallatin book, I'll walk the square, just talk to everybody working these buildings. Like I wanted this thing to be thorough. I just talk to people, and a weird thing happens when you write ghost stories. It's like, I'm sure you've seen Ghostbusters, that commercial. We're ready to believe you.
Yeah.
Like I sell things. I sell books pretty much every weekend. People come to me, oh, my mom thinks I'm crazy, but when I was a kid, I would see this in my grandmother's basement. Or my dad owned a building in South Nashville, and we saw this over here. And I would just make notes, and just, it's kind of like how the Opryland book was born. I'd be up promoting the Gallatin, Murfreesboro, Nashville books, and then people come up, oh, honey, I worked at Opryland, and we saw this. or my dad worked at Opryland as a custodian. He told me these stories,
Oh my
and I worked in the hotel in '95 for like 6 months, and I heard things too, but I didn't really, I was just a kid, teenager, and like, oh, we saw the old lady tonight, or so and so saw the old lady, and I kind of just stashed it away, and then I'm writing books here and all these stories about Opryland. I'm like, there's a book there, and so I did the Opryland book. That was my childhood, man. Like Hulk Hogan, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, Opryland. That's what I was raised on.
Yeah, me too. I was going to ask. I'll go ahead and ask it now because I was going to ask about the Opryland book because I remember in 1982, our family went on a big tour of the United States, and one of our first stops was Opryland. We spent a couple of days there at the amusement park, and you said you got a book on that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, when I was a kid, my birthday is June 3rd, so my granny, who lived on Murfreesboro Road, which is right down the street from the park, she would buy me a season pass for my birthday.
Yeah.
So we go stay at my granny's. My cousin, he just got a car. He can pick me up. He and I would go spend the whole day. Give me like $5 and spend the whole day at Opryland. $5, you'd be like a king, ride all the rides. That was living high on the hog back then. But yeah, man, it's weird because in the 1300s, like the Overton plantation, right along the Cumberland River, that was an Indian village.
Okay.
It was their hunting ground, and the thing, learning from history, Middle Tennessee, during 1400s, 1500s, whatever, all these Native Americans would come in and they would leave mysteriously. Like you had the Shawnee, the Creek, the Cherokee, they'd be here for a while, and they would go. And the thing is, it was allergies. Like Middle Tennessee sits in a bowl,
right,
and all this air accumulates and just drops on us. And these Indians would stay for a while, and they would leave. So right there on the Cumberland River, you had these Native Americans living there. And then in the 1800s, the McGavick family bought the property, built Two Rivers Mansion. They built another house called the 1806 house, which was the first one. And a lot of stuff happened there. And then the last heiress in the Gavick family, Miss Louisa, she passed away, had no children, no nieces or nephews. So she left the land to her church to be used for an orphanage or hospital. Well, a couple years goes by, and the church sells to WSM, who's looking for property to build Opryland, a theme park, for country music. So there's stories where people are building this theme park, and they see this lady walking around the construction site at night. They get the park open. She's in the gazebos watching people. She walks up to people who are cleaning up at night, starts talking to them, then disappears as she's speaking to them. It's crazy. And like I told you, I worked at the hotel in '95, and there are stories where, Miss McGavick, she's in the hotel. She sits like the older part, the Magnolia Wing, but they see her there. They see her. After my book came out, a lady, it blew up on Facebook, she took her kids to see a movie in the movie theater in the mall, and she's, this is a selfie of her and her children, and behind her is this floating lady in a black dress. It went viral, it was all over. Like, it's weird because my book, the book spiked, when it came out, it kind of dipped. Then it spiked again when that went viral, from the stories getting around and going, those stories at Opryland. So yeah, weird stuff at Opryland. It's this little corner of Nashville, but yeah, it's super haunted.
That's insane. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it's a park we grew up going to, and
there are people who died in the park too, and they kept it under wraps. Like I know of at least 3. There's probably more, but they kind of, like people die at Disney World all the time, but they shoot them out the back and you never hear about it. Yeah, people die in the park, and people. In the hotel, there was a crazy story where there was this couple, they were bickering, and the husband threw the wife over the ledge. Well, she grabbed him and she drug him over too, and they both fell to their deaths in our Opryland hotel. Yeah, it's crazy.
Gosh, that's insane. That is crazy. Now I know too that like in you mentioned like 2 of the things that I think you mentioned in your podcast. I know you mentioned in your podcast like your fascination with headless ghosts.
Yeah,
you mentioned that. Which is talk a little bit about that. What's the fascination there? Is it kind of like
as a kid, the headless horseman thing? It's just it's larger than life. It's just wild and over the top. There's some. I found there's 2 of them in Kentucky. It's wild. I just learned of the second one. I have a Kentucky book, and there's the story goes. Where was it at? It wasn't Danville, Perryville, somewhere up in central Kentucky. But there was a skirmisher in the Civil War. Legend has it was Forrest. I can't remember the general. I think it was him. But he took a group of men up there, and they ambushed this Union general. There's a skirmish. Forrest men chased him off. Well, the next day, during the skirmish, one of the cavalry guys under Forrest fell off his horse. I guess his head was left for dead. He thought he was dead.
Right.
Rock left him. Well, the next day he wakes up. He's out there foraging for food. And there was a farmer who owns a big farm on the property, and he sees this rebel out there, picking his blueberries and foraging for food. So he sticks it behind him, holding the gun. He's like, "Okay, you're my prisoner." So he takes him upstairs, chains him up into a bed. The next morning, He's like, I'm gonna make you work while you're here. He hands him an axe. Once you go, clear this field. So the soldier realized, okay, this is my chance. I can take a shot at it. So he rears back the axe. Well, the guy shoots him. The soldier falls, but he's not dead. So when he kind of gets himself back to his feet, the farmer realizes, oh no, he's coming after me. So he goes to fire again, but the gun misfires. So there's a race for the axe. So the farmer gets it and swipes and knocks his head clean off. And then shortly after that, people who bought the property would see like a headless man in their house. People who lived in the community would be out riding their horse and see a man out in the fields without a head. It's all based on like old newspaper articles. And someone mentioned to me a long time ago, there's also a second headless horseman story in Kentucky that it's funny. There's a lady who studies folklore at the University of Oregon, sent me an email a month or two ago. And she said, hey, what was your sources for this headless horseman in Kentucky? She's doing a thesis on folklore. And so I told her, I said, well, someone mentioned, I started digging, I found the headless horseman story. I said, I'll send it to you. So I started looking, I couldn't find my source online on newspapers.com is where I found the stories about it. And I started digging, I kept looking. Well, there's a second headless horseman I found digging to find my source for this lady in Oregon. So yeah, I'm trying to remember, it was like one of the original founders of some community, and he lost his head too. But yeah, it's fun, wild, and weird, and like I don't know, y'all probably think something's wrong with me, but like headless horseman, reviving bodies with electricity, that's kind of like...
Yeah, you talk about, is it called galvanizing? Is it
Galvanism is what it's called.
Galvanism, okay.
So back in, this was the early 1800s, it was 1790s, a guy named Luigi Galvani. He was an Italian scientist, and he would conduct these experiments with medical electricity, where he would get frog legs, apply current to them, and they would twitch. Right. Hook them to a severed cow's head, and the eyes would open. And it's just the current making the muscles, it stimulates the muscles, causing the movement. Well, it causes this big thing this uproar overseas where I think it's got an Andrew Urey, a Scottish scientist, 1808, I think it was. There was a guy who was hanged. He was a thief, and he got the body, and afterwards he applied current to it. And there's like a painting of the scene where this dead man, they apply current to his temples and his spinal cord, and like his eyes open, like the painting, you see the guy laying on the bed, but his eyes are open, and people are fleeing because this guy's dead and his eyes are open. It freaks them out. But yeah, it inspired Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein. She's reading about this in the papers. Okay. And once Mary Shelley published Frankenstein, that was the first science fiction novel in the world. Mm-hmm. So it inspired this whole new genre. Well, it also inspired these doctors and these scientists who read it. Oh, I can do that. So it happened overseas in Europe, happened in America, happened in Connecticut, happened in Knoxville, Franklin, Tennessee, happened in Nashville, happened Chicago, St. Louis. There's like over a dozen cases I've found in the United States where it happened. So one of the wildest, and actually I wrote a book about this earlier this year. It's kind of historic fiction. I played with some things, but it's so wild. There's a guy named Knox Martin. So during the Civil War, Knox Martin, he's an enslaved individual in Alabama. Mm-hmm. Once the war's over, he makes his way to Middle Tennessee to find work. Well, he goes to live with a lady named Aunt Mary, one of his mother's best friends as a child. She lives up here in West Nashville. And, being a poor lady in Alabama, she was raised on voodoo and stuff. Like, she just, that's what her parents stuff passed down to her. So she gets hold of Knox, and she's putting this voodoo stuff in his head. Well, he gets a job on this farm in West Nashville, and there's a disagreement on the pay. He's going to make a certain amount of money, he has to stay for a certain amount of time. Well, he decides he wants to stay for a few weeks, then leaves. Well, he goes to talk to Aunt Mary, and she said, hey, his soul is black. He's evil. He's not going to pay you. You got to kill him. And he's getting all this stuff, Knox, he's a former slave. He's not educated. And this lady's putting the stuff in his head. Well, he goes to the farm in the middle of the night, knocks on the door, John, I want my pay. And, John, it's a late night, he's trying to settle his little boy, and his wife's in bed. He goes to the door, Knox, get out of here, and pushes him, come back tomorrow, we'll talk. Well, Knox, he's mad. There's a wagon wheel by the door, he kicks it in, he breaks a spoke, takes a spoke, and he bludgeons the guy to death. His wife comes out and bludgeons the wife too. It's a gory scene the next morning when her brother comes over to visit and he finds the bodies. Well, he goes on the run. They catch him. They hold him in jail in West Nashville. Well, what happens is a lynch mob comes and the sheriff gets him out. So there's a whole lot of twists and turns. He's found guilty of murder. So while he's in jail for murder, some of these doctors, there's two doctors in Nashville. One of them's Dr. Summers, was the main guy. they come to visit Knox. Hey, there's been all these developments in medical, electric, just galvanism is what it is. He said, hey, if I give you some silver, can I take possession of your body once you're hanged? What's he got to lose? They might bring him back. Yeah. So Knox Martin, he's during this time, the execution is like a carnival. Thousands of people descended upon South Nashville, roughly where Tribeca is today. There's these two hills and a creek. Well, all these people converge, thousands of them. It's a carnival atmosphere. They're selling roasted corn, they're selling apples. It's a big deal. So thousands of people descend upon South Nashville, watch this grim spectacle. They cut the rope, the trap is sprung, Knox, he hangs. So when this happens, the doctors rush up. They don't take the body. Well, the sheriff knows what's about to take place. No, he's going to hang 15 extra minutes just because I know you're about to try to revive him. So once the sheriff gives them the okay, they take the body, they put it in a coffin, and they take it to this shed, like maybe 50 yards behind the gallows that are erected. So there's thousands of people there to watch this, and they see what's going on. A big chunk of them descend upon this little shed. They're pulling the paneling off. They climb the roof, pull the roof off to watch what's going to happen. So Knox Martin he's laid on this table, taken out the coffin, laid on the table. They hook a wire to his back, to his spine, put a wire on his temple. A galvanized battery consists of two glass cylinders. They add chemicals. There's like a salt bridge. And once it's activated, the current flows. He shoots off the table. His eyes open. His arms move. His mouth is moving like he's trying to talk. Gas. People are going nuts. They run to the sheriff. He's alive. He's alive. Well, after a while, that battery dies and Knox just falls back to the table. Well, the doctors realize, hey, we got to get him back to the college. We can make another battery. It's now Lindsley Hall. It was the University of Nashville. They take him back to Lindsley Hall. They bolt the door. No one can get in. Well, a couple of days later, people are writing to the Tennessean. I just met a man named Knox Martin. So he's walking home to Alabama. A day or two later, hey, I met a guy who told me he was hanging in South Nashville. He's walking to Kansas. The doctors were getting letters from people like, hey, did you really revive this man? I met him. He's walking home to Selma. So, and then shortly thereafter, a member of the jury got a piece of rope and a tintype photograph that was taken inside the jail the day he was hanged. It's like all these weird things keep happening. The Tennessean's putting them on the front page.
Right.
Like he was making headlines from New Orleans to New York. What's going on in Nashville? Did this guy really... Did they bring him back to life?
Right.
I'm 99.9% sure they didn't bring him back to life, but it's just wild that the Tennessean is like putting all this stuff out there, and for like a month or two, everybody in Nashville's buzzing. Knox Martin's alive. He walked home to Alabama.
Yeah.
So I wrote that book, The Resurrection of Knox Martin. It's kind of playing with all that because there's so much material there, and it's bananas, but like it really happened in South Nashville.
Well, and I think that's part of the thing is like, what do you know is real? What do you know is just story?
Yeah, and I have, working on that book, I have like A, B, and D. I can play with C, but I got to stick true to the story. But have a little fun with it, just make it entertaining, and that's what I do.
Right. And does that occur with a lot of like the folklore, the ghost stories and legends? Is that because it sounds like a lot of those are passed down, but then you have these people that claim they've seen this
like
stuff.
The Bell Witch is the big thing.
Yeah.
I wrote a book about Gallatin, Murfreesboro, Franklin. I had several books on Nashville. I pushed back on the Bell Witch. I didn't want to do it because it's been done 1,000 times. It's a story of a tale that became a legend. No one knows what's what, and there are people who probably know more than I do. But still, it's like the Jersey Devil. It's been a story passed down for thousands of years. No one, or 200 years, no one knows. So when I had these books called Tennessee Tales, and they're like the Bell Witch, like stories of like Mount Juliet, Smyrna, Portland, small town stories, because all these small towns in Tennessee have stories and legends. So when I did the Bell Witch, it's in Tennessee Tales because it takes place in Adams, and the story there is, the angle I took anyway was Andrew Jackson. It's a story I always heard. Andrew Jackson went to go see if the Bell Witch was real. So when I did it, I talked to a guy who worked at the Hermitage, and I said, look, did Andrew Jackson go visit the Bell Witch? And he said, well, I can't tell you he did, but I can't tell you he didn't. The thing is, John Bell was the owner of that farm. John Bell was a Jacksonian Democrat. He was buddies with Andrew Jackson. He ran for president in 1860. So there's the guy told me, so, look, Jackson went to the Bell Farm on these 3 occasions and told me the dates. So it's like, did he go out there to visit John Bell, or did he go out there because of a witch? So the story goes, Jackson went out there, and he got close to the farm, and his wagon just got stuck. Like, it wouldn't move the closer he got to the farm. And he had his driver get out and push. He got there and helped, and the thing wouldn't budge. So they sat there and kept trying to push. They tried pushing it back the other way. And finally, as they were pushing on this wagon, they hear this witchy laugh, ha, 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 ha. You're free to go, General. And the wagon started moving on its own. So, who knows if that's true or not, but still, it's like,
right.
Jackson did go there, but the witch, I don't know. But that's the angle I took with it anyway.
Gotcha. That's crazy, though. I mean, so that, yeah. So what is, like, in terms of, like, if you had to break, I don't know if you can break it down, but, like, you got legend, you have folklore, ghost stories. Is there a difference with each of those genres, or is it they pretty much fall in the same?
It's all in the same wheelhouse, man. Like,
yeah.
I do ghost stories, folklore. Because my wife's like, because I go to church, like, what do I tell folks your books are about? Folklore.
Yeah.
That's what it's at.
Well,
kind of big umbrella, folklore.
Folklore, yeah. Yeah.
But, I do monsters, cryptids, grave robbing, man. I'll be here all day talking about this. I went to the Midwest because, like, I started doing these other books. I did Nashville, and I go to Philadelphia a couple of summers in a row. I'll do Philadelphia. So much history up there. Went to Louisville because it's close. I had the app, so I'll do a Louisville book. So I'm like, well, what am I doing next? I kept going to St. Louis for a convention. I'm like, I'll do something in St. Louis because St. Louis got a lot of history.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Chicago, Cincinnati, man. And in the Midwest especially, there's this thing with grave robbing. All these medical colleges had to have a steady stream of cadavers or they had to shut down. So like in 1880, you could make $20 a week as a laborer at the docks in like Cincinnati, Nashville, Chattanooga, St. Louis, or you can make $40 in one night stealing one cadaver that's sent to the college. That's roughly $800,000 to $900,000 in our money for one cadaver. So if you get 2 or 3 in one night, you're doing pretty well. And so I just fell in this rabbit hole in the Midwest. I was researching stories, and I kept finding this term in the old newspapers, ghouls. The ghouls struck again, or ghouls over in Cave Hill, or it's like, what in the world is a ghoul? So you start digging, it's a grave robber. And these guys, and like I have a whole book about grave robbing, but it's not scary. It's wild and weird. It's just the shenanigans are through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a guy named Old Man Deb William Cunningham. I got a book, I have a screenplay based off this guy. So Old Man Deb was an old Irish immigrant who lived in Cincinnati, and he would go raid the graveyards. And one night, listen to this, Rob, he got 36 cadavers in one night. And what he did was, when you got a body, you took it back behind the school. They had a shaft where you put it in a canvas bag and you drop it down in the shaft.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that night he probably ran out of bags, probably around 7 or 8. But still, he dropped the cadavers down the shaft. And the next morning he goes, he's going back to the college because he's going to clean up.
Yeah.
That's if you make $50,000 a year, that's roughly half a year, probably more than half a year's salary just in cadavers that one night.
Yeah.
So he walks into college, he's licking his chops. Doctor sees him. Cunningham, come here. Yes, sir. How's your morning going, sir? It's good to see you. Y'all had smallpox. Take them back.
Oh, my God.
You can just imagine, like, the defeat setting in on his face. But that night, he had to go back with his wagon. They loaded him into barrels for him. So he loaded the barrels into his wagon, and he went back to the cemetery, and he dumped them all. He didn't rebury them. He dumped them. They said the police came by the next morning. They saw this big pyramid of bodies just stacked on top of each other in the corner of the graveyard. I guess he thought the sexton would have to just rebury him. And the thing is, like, the sexton's a caretaker of a cemetery. He lived on site usually. And they were in charge of the cemetery. And usually they were kind of in cahoots with the grave robbers. They would leave, they would leave a list, or they would, like, mark the grave with, like, a white carnation or something where they would know, hey, this is what's what. This is what you can take. Because if you get a body that's been there for a couple of weeks, it's going to be decomposed. You can't take that one because you wanted them fresh. So, yeah, I never envisioned going down this rabbit hole of grave robbing. It's I could talk all day because there's so many stories. It's wild and weird.
And I imagine just even not just Midwest, but as you get further west and things of that nature, it's just as crazy, I would think.
Yeah, well, you got to play. Cincinnati at one time was the 5th largest city in the country. And at their peak, they had 9 colleges. So it's supply and demand. You have this demand but little supply, so you got to hire the guys to raid the graveyards.
Gotcha.
And St. Louis, Chicago, those are huge cities. It happened in Nashville, happened a lot in Chattanooga, I found. And I'm sure it happened a lot in Nashville too, but the stories didn't really get out.
Yeah.
I found this old newspaper, it's actually from the early 20th century, In Cincinnati, at one time, it was such a big thing. The lawmakers were like, all right, we're going to audit this one cemetery. We're going to do every single body. And they found that only 30% of the bodies that were buried there were still in the coffins. That's crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah. And what's about Old Man Dead, the kicker to his story is when he finally died, or as he was about to die, he sold his body because he sold his body to the college. He wanted a little extra money. Hey, when I die, I'll turn it over to you. And so, after they dissected and carved him up, the administrators didn't want to just throw him in a chute or bury him in the back or incinerate his bones. They made a big model of his bones and put it in their museum with a placard that said "Old Man Dead." I have a screenplay based on this guy's life because it's so bananas. But yeah,
Well, how's that coming? Because I know too. So you mentioned that you got a screenplay. Is that one that you're?
Man, I've got a script I've got set here in Hendersonville. It's based off Spearfinger. The Cherokee legend of Spearfinger.
I'm not familiar.
So, like I mentioned earlier, in 1400s, you had the Native Americans, the Creek, Shawnee, and Cherokee, and sometimes they're all fighting at the same time for this land. So, according to Cherokee folklore, you have Spearfinger. And Spearfinger, she's an old woman, but she's made of stone, which you can't really tell she's made of stone until it's too late. So, if she's out there in the woods, she has this like a dagger finger, Spearfinger. It's like an 8-inch long dagger on her finger, her index finger. But if she's walking down the woods, she carries a blanket. She conceals her hand.
Okay.
So if a Creek warrior sees this old woman in the woods, he's not going to hurt her. But when she walks up to him and starts talking, disarms him, she gets him. She would stick her spear finger through his heart, and when he drops to the ground, she would tear open his stomach and consume his liver. And once she's eaten his liver, she can take his shape. Once she has his shape, she can go to the Creek village one by one, clean out the whole village.
Oh.
So I have this screenplay. It's going to be set in Hendersonville, and the thing behind it is, so they're raising Indian mounds along the Cumberland River to build this real nice gated community. How far is the river from your house?
The river, or I know Old Hickory.
Old Hickory, that's Cumberland
Yeah,
River,
it's just
same
like
thing.
yeah, it's just over.
Yeah, it could be sitting in your backyard.
Yeah.
So they're raising Indian mounds to build this nice subdivision, and all of a sudden there's a surveyor out early one morning. He's looking through his theodolite, that little thing that marks the land, and he sees this dark form starting to get close. Who are you? You can't be out here. She gets him.
Oh.
Well, the next day there's a hunter out in the woods over there off of like Curtis Crossroads, Saunders Ferry, and he's out there hunting, and the surveyor is like getting close. Who are you? I have a I have a hunting license. You need to see it, because it's the surveyor walking towards him. He thinks he's in trouble for hunting. The guy gets closer, she gets him. So as this is going on, there's a YouTuber out there filming with her phone. Sure, there's a murder day before.
Yeah.
And she catches it. It goes viral, gets on the news, and it's off to the races from there.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
I have a producer in Florida. I mean, we've got a lot of things in motion. We're just trying to find the financing. Of course, that's the kicker.
Yeah,
you need
exactly.
$1.5 million. So you might be watching, you got $1.5 million hitting me up. But yeah, I mean, but there's legs for it. It could be like the next Freddy Krueger, because it's based on real Cherokee folklore.
Oh, that's
But yeah,
cool.
I'd love to set something in Hendersonville, and yeah, it'd be a lot of fun to get that made.
Yeah, I think I was listening to the one where I told my wife, I said, "Yeah, Cash Saver's haunted, by the way." Over there, that area, because I'm like, what?
Well, that's where I set
Yeah.
I set Spearfinger kind of like Sanders Ferry, Walton Ferry, Curtis Crossroads, like back that
Nice.
peninsula, and that's where like it really gets crazy, and some people turn up missing, come up dead, and there's a whole lot more to it. And the thing of Spearfinger is, according to Cherokee folklore, to contain Spearfinger, there's this thing called Stone Man, and he's made of stone.
Okay.
She's afraid of him, he's afraid of her, and they coexist, and like they don't go crazy because they're afraid the other one's going to come get them. So, as this is going in my screenplay, this is all make believe. The police officer who's kind of in charge of the investigation, his mother-in-law is Cherokee. She's full-blooded Cherokee. His wife's half Cherokee. So she keeps telling him, "Hey, this is Spearfinger. Spearfinger's back. She's unhappy about all this construction." "Oh, whatever. It's all silly stuff. Your grandma told you to keep you out of the woods." Well, she goes out there and she starts chanting for the Stone Man to come save them. Well, in the end, they do get Spearfinger, of course, because her weakness is you can't shoot her. Arrows bounce off of her, bullets bounce off of her. Her heart is in her hand. That's why she keeps it hidden. It's to hide the Spearfinger, but her heart is right here. So they figure out how to get her. But when they finally get her, the last scene is, they've summoned the Stone Man. The Stone Man walks out in the woods. They got Spearfinger. He picks up her stone Spearfinger, He walks off in the woods, setting up a sequel. So yeah,
Oh,
that's gonna be part 2.
nice.
The Stone Man
Nice.
wreaking havoc in Hendersonville.
Nice. Nice. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, stay tuned. Yeah,
Stay
you got
tuned for that.
$1.5 million,
man.
and you could be
There
executive
you
producer.
go. There you go. That sounds great, man. That sounds great. So that's, and obviously that's one of your future projects, hopefully down the road. Right?
Man, I don't know. I've had talks with people in TV and film, and it's hurry up and wait at that level.
Yeah.
You know, like the film, you got to chase the money, and it's a whole lot more hurry up and wait. It's so aggravating. So, but in the meantime, I just write books and do the podcast or radio show, and just something will hit one day. Just in the meantime, I like telling stories.
Yeah,
and just, like
absolutely.
if I can just tell somebody something, they're like, what? That's like a home run for me,
So, are there any, like, in terms of future books, podcasts, and things like that, any states that you'd like to get into that you haven't explored yet? I mean,
Well, I've got a book that's going to be out late next year, probably June, because that's the anniversary. Andrew Jackson, I mean, I'm not sure if you know, I have a romance novel put out last year, The First Lady of Tennessee.
Oh,
Based off the Sam Houston story.
Okay.
And it's a crazy story. And I am like the ghost guy. I'm the folklore, true crime, whatever. But the story about Sam Houston was so bananas. Like this young lady, Sam Houston was the governor of the state of Tennessee, right? Well, he was married. Andrew Jackson, who's the head of the Democrat Party, gets in his ear, hey, relations looming. You ain't got a wife. Go find you a wife. He's 35. He marries a girl who's 18 from Gallatin. Her mom and daddy get in her ear, you got to marry the governor. Well, she's in love with somebody else. So the whole time they're dating, she's in love with this other guy, but mom and daddy's, hey, you marry the governor. They get married. Well, a whole lot of twists and turns. She leaves him. So he resigns the governor's chair. He moves out west, gets caught up in the Texas Revolution, becomes an American icon.
Yeah.
But like, had this young lady not left him, Texas would still be part of America, part of Mexico.
Yeah.
But I mean, if she would stayed with him, he'd have been president. Jackson had him and waiting in the wings.
Gotcha.
Because when James K. Polk, our 11th president, got in office, Van Buren didn't have the delegates, and it was kind of like a mad rush, and Jackson's puppet master behind the strings. That would have been Houston easily, but instead we got Polk. But yes, this young lady, the ripple she cast. But yeah, sorry, long story short. So my next book is Andrew Jackson, The Dueling Story. Pistols at Red River is what it's called.
Okay.
I got a screenplay on this one too. So Jackson was married to a married woman. Do you know the story?
I don't think I.
So Andrew Jackson, he's married to Rachel Donaldson.
Right.
Rachel Donaldson, she was the daughter of one of the founders of Nashville, John Donaldson. Well, she was married to a guy in Kentucky. He beat her. He's mean to her. He sent her away. Oddly enough, one of the guys in the boarding house where she lived with her husband was Judge John Overton.
Oh.
So he was studying law in Kentucky, and he was living with him, and he's the one that introduced her to Andrew Jackson. So yeah, it's crazy how it's all connected. But anyway, he sends her back home. They file for divorce, and she thinks she's free and clear. Well, during that time, Kentucky was a territory. It's part of Virginia.
Okay.
But because it became a commonwealth, something didn't get filed correctly and never got in front of a judge. But she comes to Nashville thinking she's free and clear. No. She's married to a guy.
The guy.
And Jackson marries his married woman. So Jackson, he's Superior Court Justice. He resigns out to lead the Tennessee militia. And all this stuff is like just following him as he's on the ascent, right? He's a future president. This bigamy stuff. And Jackson's a hothead, I'm sure you already know.
Yeah.
Well, he's in the middle, back in the early 1800s, there was no Louisville, Kentucky. Horse racing was Saratoga, New York, or Nashville, Gallatin, Middle Tennessee, where you came to race your horses. And Jackson was a big horse breeder. He's also a good trainer. So he had this horse called Truxton, and was it Truxton or Plowboy? It was his horse. Truxton was the guy Joseph Overton in West Nashville brought to the track. And Irwin's like, hey Jackson, let's have a race next week. And it's like, sure, I'll line it up. We'll bet this amount of money. Irwin turns to him before he leaves. Hey, if you don't show or your horse is lame, you owe me $800. Jackson said, deal. They shake on it. The next week, oddly enough, Irwin's horse pulls up lame, has a hoof that's infected. He can't bring his horse to the track. So Jackson, he's just salivating. So Irwin comes back, hat in hand. Hey, buddy, old pal, my horse, the hoof. Oh, where's my $800? Well, you heard the term breaking the bank, right?
Yeah.
$800 in 1806 breaks the bank. A bank cannot give you that money or they go under. So Irwin goes to Jackson, hey, I'll pay you in promissory notes. Well, the word gets around Nashville. Irwin's no good for his word. He can't pay his debts. Well, his son-in-law comes to Nashville, Charles Dickinson. His daughter gets married. And Dickinson is a hothead. They go to the track. He starts talking bad about Rachel. He's back to Jackson. Jackson, hey, let's settle this like gentlemen. I don't want to talk about my wife. Yes, sir, I may have had too much bourbon. I apologize. He keeps spouting off the track about Rachel. Well, eventually he gets published in the newspaper. Charles challenges him to a duel. So Jackson accepts. And back then it's a class thing. You can't just walk up to like a common man. Like if someone is a ditch digger, that person cannot call out Andrew Jackson for a duel. One of Dickinson's friends tried to call out Jackson. Jackson caned him, got killed him in a saloon because he was unworthy of challenging a man of that caliber. But Dickinson, he has that clout being Irwin's son-in-law. So they make preparations to go fight at the Red River on the Kentucky line, because James Robertson, the founder of Nashville, says, you cannot do this in Nashville. I forbid you. And Jackson respected him. Okay, we'll go to Red River. So on their way up there, his second, you had to have an assistant with you at all times in a duel. So he has John Overton's brother, Thomas Overton, as his second. They're riding to the Red River, and Thomas is like, Andrew, I've been in the taverns every night, and people are betting on this. They're betting on Dickinson. Turns out Dickinson was either 6-0 or up to 13-0 in Maryland duels. He's never lost. And Jackson's just like, oh, man, what am I going to do? So him and Thomerson, they have this, they figure out, okay, look, we're going to give, Thomas is a short, stocky man. Andrew Jackson's tall and lanky. He takes Thomas's jacket, which is going to like make him look a whole lot bigger, because Dickinson's been aiming, like when he practices, he's been aiming at like a little square in your pocket of your coat, at your heart. That's where he aims when he's. So Jackson, he takes Thomas's jacket and he's going to wear it in the duel. And furthermore, he's not going to take the first shot. When it's 3-2-1 fire, he's going to wait, let Dickinson shoot, because he's probably going to miss. So they get to the Red River, it's 3-2-1, they mark their paces, 3-2-1 fire, Dickinson bang, hits him in the heart. But Jackson don't sell it. He's not dead. He's hurt, but he kind of staggers and he gets his bearings. And it's wild because Dickinson's like, did I miss? He's never lost. He's 13-0 by some accounts. So his second walks over and he turns back to Charles. Walk to your spot. He gets a shot. So Jackson, he's just milking it for all it's worth. Click. The gun misfires. It's jammed. What do we do? Is it settled? They're trying to figure out, okay, is it over? Jackson's he's figuring, monkeying with his gun. Thomas Overton, a second's meeting with the other second. Jackson, bang, drops him as he walks away. So yeah, it's this crazy story.
Oh wow!
And it's all over the love of Jackson's wife, Rachel.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts, and it's really it's wild because like Jackson had a lot of blowback in Nashville because Dickinson was a much younger kid. Jackson could have refused the duel. He had two small children, so it's like Jackson. It was wild. Is like I think like a few months later, Thomas Hart Benton and his brother got into it with Jackson and almost killed him. They shot him in the shoulder, beat the fire out of him. In later years, Thomas Hart Benton became a Missouri senator and became one of Jackson's closest allies when Jackson was in the White House. Wow. It's Andrew Jackson's most fascinating character in American history. But yeah, he's kind of controversial, being a slave owner. You can't say nothing nice about him. But I've got a treasure trove of material for Jackson if I ever want to do like. I pitched a TV series to a guy one year, a while back, and yeah, Pistols Red River is my next book. Comes out in April. Sorry, it took 30 minutes.
Oh, that's great though, man. That's exciting. That sounds like a great read. I mean, seriously. So what is your like? What do you want for your readers, your listeners? What do you want them to come away with? Reading your books, listening to your podcast.
Well, it's I'll tell you, like I told I had a cousin reach out to me. I guess it was over the weekend. She didn't know I'd written the book. She saw a book on Facebook and she bought it, and someone shared it. And she's like, dude, I didn't know this was you. I was like, she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I've written a lot of books, and like I'm over 40 now, so it's kind of like. At this point, I'm just kind of writing for myself. Whatever I think is fun and wild, weird, that's what I'm doing. And so, yeah, I'm kind of writing for myself at this point. I think it's wild and fun. Hopefully you'll like it, too.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, the podcast, everything, we've enjoyed everything.
Yeah, and I told you before we started rolling, like years ago I had this podcast, my wife and I, because my wife, she's better at telling stories than I am. I get long-winded, but she's fun and bubbly. So, she made this podcast going, was doing really well, and then when we had our little boy, when he was 2, he broke his leg. Right. And a 2-year-old was hard, but with a broken leg, it was just impossible.
Yeah.
So we just stopped. I would try to get it back going against myself, and I never could do it. Well, I was approached about this radio show in Portland, and I'm like, this sounds fun. I'll get the radio show, and I took the audio and uploaded it a couple days later as a podcast, and I've kind of got it going again. It's doing pretty well. I enjoy doing it. I like telling stories, man.
Yeah, that's great. We need good storytellers in there. I mean, we've lost that. I feel like we've lost that art a little bit. I mean, in terms of, or maybe a lot, because of social media and things like that.
And it is weird because I sell books pretty much every weekend. And like, so, do you have a podcast? Do you have a YouTube channel? It's like, books are a dying medium. It stinks for me, but that's the cold hard facts. That's why I'm trying to get in TV or film, because that's where the money is. Books, I mean, people want, is it on Audible? You know, they don't want to read a book. They want to have it read to them. It's just the way of the world now. Yeah. Good or bad, that's the way we're going.
Yeah, exactly. And currently now you've got also, too, you mentioned earlier that you've got your haunted, I think you mentioned to my wife earlier when we were talking earlier, the haunted tours, the ghost tours of Gallatin and then Hendersonville.
Yeah,
when did you start doing those?
Well, I started doing tours in Gallatin when the book came out in 2019. And I did them to kind of raise money for a nonprofit, just for fun, just tell some stories, promote the book. And then people kept messaging me, hey, I want to do a tour. When's your next tour? Guys, did them in October, and I realized that people were asking me to do them. Why not do them? So I kept doing them, and a buddy of mine knows Franklin on Foot. I'm not sure in Franklin, Tennessee, and they're established. And I would help him with tours because he needed a guide out of Franklin book. So it was like I watched him, and he would show videos, like surveillance videos, show pictures. So like I would try to emulate what he did, because I get surveillance video from businesses and historic sites on the square, and I'd incorporate it into my tours, show pictures of the people, and it makes it's better than someone just walking around just telling you stories. If you can show visuals, it makes it a whole lot more entertaining, and that's kind of stole from him. And I actually did a whole bunch of tours in Franklin last year. Franklin on Foot, the owner, he had to step away during October, so I went down and did a bunch of tours for him. And I was doing tours in Franklin last year, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. Yeah. This year I'm just doing Hendersonville and Gallatin. And it stinks me because I'm doing so much traveling now. There's like 2 weekends in October I'm not really doing many tours. Right. I did one on Sundays, but I'll be in Lexington this weekend. I can't, it is what it is. But I'll be doing them the final 2 weeks of October. And I do private tours anytime, groups for 4 or more. But Hendersonville tour, and then it's 60 minutes, and Gallatin's 90 minutes.
And the Hendersonville tour, are they both on the weekends, or is one?
Yeah, I mean, I can do private tours anytime. So a group of 4 or more can reach out to me. I'll do them. It's hauntedhendersonville.com and ghostofgallatin.com.
Okay.
But it's fun.
And ghostofgallatin.com.
Yeah, and it's fun, man. Like I'd probably do it for free, but I do charge money. I just enjoy telling stories, and like I told you, someone like we had I did a tour, was it 2 Fridays ago, and this lady, she messaged me frantically Saturday morning, hey, who's the owner of Ghost of Gallatin? I was like, well, it's me. I gotta show you something. She sent me this picture, and it's like this bluish white figure at a window, and it's like, could it be a street light over here reflecting through the window onto the mirror? Yeah, I don't know, man. I've gotten some weird pictures. I want to debunk everything I can, because if everything is haunted, nothing's haunted. Right. But some of these pictures you get, you're thinking, man, I don't know. It's a haunted. There's so much history here. Maybe it is something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's crazy. That's great. So where can people find you? Where can people look you up and find you?
Yeah, I kind of just like, I don't think I'm a celebrity, but people can tell me, you need your own website. So I have alansircy.com.
Okay.
southernghostsstories.com. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. I've been posting a lot of ghost stories on Twitter lately. I'm on Instagram. Yeah, I'm a narcissist. I have my own website now, alansircy.com.
Well, Alan, thanks for coming on, man. Discover 615. This is great. This has been fascinating. Great. Love history and everything. So thank you, sir, for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Have a great day. God bless.